I was stuck on the 50K ARR for a long time. And multiple times I thought I'm going to quit because that gives me much less money that I'm having as a full-time employee. Right now, it's zero team, so it's just myself and AI, and I am on 1.5 million ARR. It's like 100 people working for the business right now, or 24/7, self-healing things that can break.
Hey, welcome to the SaaS podcast. I'm Omicron, and this is a show where I sit down with real founders and dig into how they actually built their SaaS companies. I've had almost 500 of these conversations now, and I put out a new one every week to help you build and grow your startup. If that sounds useful, hit subscribe or check out saasclub.io to learn more. My guest today is Georgiadis. He runs a software business doing $1.5 million in ARR, and he does it with zero employees, just him and AI. But it took him 7 years. For 5 of those, he was stuck at 50K in ARR, putting in his own money just to keep the business alive. In this interview, George breaks down what finally got him unstuck, why early on he turned down $1 million to sell, how he now runs his entire business, even the bug fixes, with the team of AI agents he built himself, and why he's now convinced he can't build a real company on his own with just AI, so he's hiring and building a team. So I hope you enjoy it. So tell us about Happierleads. What does the product do? Who's it for? And what's the main problem that you're solving?
Happierleads identifies your anonymous website visitors. We identify them on your website, we qualify them using AI, and then we engage with them. Essentially, what we do, imagine someone goes to your website and you have no idea who they are. Before they fill any form, we can identify their identity. We know exactly, for example, is John from IBM. And then what we do, we pass them through a qualification scenario. So we check if IBM is a good company for you or not. And if they pass those qualification checks, then we add them to an email campaign and we send them emails to try to bring them back to your sales funnel so you can contact them and book a demo with them.
Great. And tell me about the size of the business. Where are you in terms of revenue, customers, size of team?
Right now, it's very interesting. Zero team. So it's just myself and AI. And I am on 1.5 million ARR. This is something that didn't happen immediately. As you already know, this happened over the last 7 years. And when really this became a big business for me, it was the last 2 years. Until then, I was stuck on the 50K ARR for a long time. And I did some magic, and then I managed to bring this to 1.5.
And the business is bootstrapped as well. You haven't raised any money.
Exactly. So I tried to raise money, I failed, and that's why I am where I am right now.
Let's start with your background. It's interesting kind of where your story starts. You grew up in Greece. Tell me about how you got into tech.
Yeah, so I studied IT initially, and then I did a master's degree in education. I wanted to get a government job and get a salary of 800 euros, which is in US dollars, I think it's around, just for the audience to understand, probably around the $600 a month, something like this.
So you were in a place where you were basically, hey, if I could get a government job and 800 euros a
I'll
month,
be settled.
I'll do great. So you moved to London at some point after your master's degree. And how did you get to a point where you decided to start this business?
I did 10 different projects until we end up with Happierleads. And fast forward to today, this is a 7-year-old business that passed through a lot, right? So you know my story. I started looking for funding. I failed. I had 88 people that came and gone. I had a lot of failures during those years. And I managed to figure it out over experience. And I never had an MBA. I never had a degree in knowing how to run businesses. But I always liked that, and I always try to figure it out myself how to do it.
We'll talk about that, and we'll break down some of those things that you just mentioned. So you basically had like 10 failed attempts at building some kind of business before you landed on Happierleads. Tell me about like where that idea came from, why you decided you were going to work on that, and why this one was different.
One idea before Happierleads, I was building a software for CMS. So imagine, I don't know if you know, there is something called headless CMS, which is essentially an API. So I was building that at some point. It was called CMS driven. And I was selling like 1, 2, 3 licenses at the point. It was a terrible MVP because the way I was approaching it was completely different. I don't want to go there, but it was a terrible business to be. But while I was running this business, I had a need to see who is coming to my website because I was spending money on ads. People were coming to my website and then they left, and then say, okay, what can I do with 95% of people coming to my website and I don't know who they are, right? It's super hard. Imagine you have a coffee shop. 95% of people open the door, they go in and they don't buy the coffee and they leave, and you're not even able to get their email so you can email them some offers later on so you can bring them back. So 95 people coming in and left, and only 5 they buy the coffee. That is a terrible business to be, right? So this is how everybody is running the business right now. They get 95% of people coming to their website and they leave. And that was the idea. And I started looking for solutions. I found Clearbit at some point, but Clearbit was a huge enterprise vendor back then. So they quoted me 20,000 US dollars for a yearly annual subscription, always, because those are enterprise deals. And I said, that seems to be very, very crazy. I don't have that much money to spend on just identifying, the visitors. And what I did is I built my own. So I liked the idea. I said, okay, how can I build this my own? And I started building it on my own. And at some point I built the very first website. The website was terrible. If you go with a time machine, you can find the initial version of the website was very bad. But fast forward, what happened back then? I found AppSumo, and what happens in AppSumo is that a lot of people willing to try your software and pay for the software and become loyal customers long term because they buy a lifetime deal, and they willing to fund your own project. So I made my first 50,000 from my first campaign with AppSumo, and it was money I used to further develop and build the AppSumo. And then I did another campaign and another one with them. So I did multiple campaigns to self-fund, in a way, the business without getting external capital.
So how this was the day before the days of AI. You're a solo founder. How did you build something like, even if it was like a super basic version of Clearbit? How did you go about doing that?
So you don't have to build everything yourself. So there is a lot of different layers there. So let's talk about the initial technology, because what we use today is not what it used to be before. What used to be before, it was called reverse IP lookup. So this is a technology that it's just a database that matching an IP with a company, right? You don't have exact visitor identification there. So that is a quite simplified version, right? Obviously, there is a lot more going on there. But what I managed to do is I managed to buy a database and try to build up everything else. I built up the UI part, I built up the email campaigns, automations. So you build the business on top of the data. So there is nobody out there that builds the data, right? It's super hard for you to build all the data, like the huge database, right? So you have to buy from somewhere. Even the big players, they buy from somewhere their own data. Then you build up the business on top of this. You add some filtering layers, some qualify, to qualify the quality of the data. So you build up your proprietary technology on top of this, but behind the scenes, the data, it's usually a database that you can buy as one-off.
So it's not that different from these days where people are trying to build on top of the LLMs and put their own special sauce on top of something that's being shared, right? Let's go back to that first version or the early version of the product. So you explained how you put it together. Basically, the core was reverse IP, and then what you were building on top of that. The AppSumo launches can be great because you get access to early adopters. It's a good way to basically raise money, but you're also selling lifetime deals, which can potentially become crippling because all those people that you sold to 6-7 years ago, you still have to support them today, right? Even if they're not paying you any more money. So how has that worked out for you?
Here's the truth. I worked this out, and every 2 years they make all their money back. So what I mean with this, all the servers costs, all the data costs I do for them, right? So in 2 years time, all this investment is gone in their own usage, right? So the people that using the tool, they evaporate this money that they gave me, right? This 50K that I got from my first launch, those people, they used those credits in just server costs on employees, everywhere. So I'm not getting back something immediately, but what this gives you is a period where you can ramp up. So it's like if you never raise money, right? So you get this 50K and you can start developing stuff, and you have to do it fast. So you have to build things faster so you can escape the velocity, and then you start selling to people monthly. And by the time you're doing this, if you do it right, then you can get the money that comes monthly, or so you can keep making more money from this. Obviously, it can become a debt, but I figured out a few ways how you can convert this debt into an investment, and I will tell you right now how I did that. So I use them for multiple reasons. It's not only about the money, it's about reviews. So I get hundreds of reviews from them on the early days that nobody else would give you a review for the software. So you build in the first day something that is not super amazing, right? It's something that there is no enterprise that will come and buy for it because they buy the dream. They pay you because they know your platform might become, after 2-3 years, Lemlist or something big, and then they can also exchange the coupon, because the coupons, they have these coupons, they can exchange this for money, right? So if you have now a Lemlist was also on AppSumo, I think so. Yes, it was. And a lot of people back then, they keep exchanging the coupons later on because now they see that this coupon has a value. And it's something like this. So people invest and they feel that something can become better later. And it's an investment for them and for you, because now you have hundreds or thousands of people. Actually, I have thousands of LTDs that they spread the word as well. So I got sales indirectly because they talk to someone and that person talks to another person. Then if you see on YouTube, I have a lot of videos that other people talking about my brand. So I just see videos from AppSumos that they just talk about Happierleads.
Right. So there's other upsides beyond just the initial revenue of using something like AppSumo, and as long as you understand what you're getting yourself in for. Now, after the AppSumo launch, you got some needed capital to reinvest in the product, make it better. You got some initial traction. You're doing about 4K in MRR, or you said like 50K in ARR. And then you got stuck at the revenue just plateaued there, and it wasn't just for a few months. It turned out to be for 5 years.
It was years, yes. It was years, and many things was why this happened. So number one, it was because I was a solo founder. So I didn't have anybody else. While I was going to the VC to ask for money, the business was going down. Then I was coming back to the business was going up. Then I was leaving again to start raising again. So it was like this back and forth, and nobody was in the business to actually push the business forward while I was trying to raise money. That's why my recommendation is, if anybody want to raise money, one guy is running the business day to day, like nothing happens. Like if we don't raise any money, we continue running the business, and the other guy is just focusing on raising money full time, because you cannot do both. And what I'm doing here is very rare, even for a bootstrapped, right? So what I'm doing right now is I'm having marketing and sales and development all run by myself, right? So only very few people can do that. And I don't say this to brag. It's just that you have to know what you're getting into, right? If you try to do what I'm doing, you need to understand that how difficult this is, because the moment imagine you have two levers. I start delivering more stuff and more people screaming on the other side to get the tool and get sales. And then I have to push sales. And the more I sell of my software, then I get more people who want more development, more features, more things, right? Or bugs that keep coming. So you need two people normally to keep pushing both levers at the same time. Otherwise, you keep doing this.
Now, tell me about what happened over those 5 years. Was it more like you kind of felt like the product was in maintenance mode and you were doing something else, or were you still like fully involved and just trying to break through, but just not finding any way to do that?
I developed a lot. I can tell you I was doing 80% software development, 20% marketing and sales. So that was the problem. That's why I was stuck there, because I should do more marketing and sales and the less software development. And I will tell you why I did fail there. I didn't try to build something super small initially, something super focused. I tried to build all different tools around the software, because my idea was, and it's something that works right now, because I spent 7 years to build this, right? But if I was looking back then, I wouldn't do all this like prospector enrichment, email campaigns. I wouldn't do all of this stuff, right? But if you think about this, it was making sense back then, because you identify the visitors. And what most of my competitors do right now, and this is my competitive advantage, is these people, they send them to Clay, they send them to other platforms, and now you have to buy additional software for enrichment, you have to buy additional software for sending the emails, and you have to glue them together. So there is a lot of cluttering there. And what I've said is, I want a solution to do the whole end-to-end path, right? I want a solution where you identify, qualify, engage, and you do this in a very quick way where you can buy the mailboxes from me. So you don't have to go to buy from MailForge or whoever, right? So you can buy everything within one tool. And why is that? Because if I have everything within one tool, I can support my customers, because I can have 360 view. I know what is wrong. I can fix it very quickly. My white label users, they love it because they can do the same. Like they have everything in one place and they can set up clients very quickly. So essentially you drop the tracking pixel, you identify the visitors, and then you can send email campaigns within 1 day. Imagine how cool this is, right? When usually it takes weeks to build email campaigns.
Are you talking about what the product is like now, or what you were trying to build in those 5 years?
Right now it is like this. It took me 7 years to build that. That's why I stuck building and building and building. If I was back then, I wouldn't do that, right? Because if I was back then, I would just develop the identification tool, let it connect with third parties for early days. Then I will just grow up the marketing and sales. And at some point, if I have enough resources, I will build everything else around. So that was a mistake I did. But that mistake that I did today really works, because none of my competitors have the ability to send the emails directly and provision mailboxes as well. Like there is no platform right now can do 360 degree of what we actually do.
You're basically trying to give your customers a full end-to-end solution rather than having to pull together a whole bunch of different tools. It makes sense now, but during those 5 years where you're trying to build a much bigger product, and you already identified how you would do it differently and build a more lightweight product and focus more on sales and marketing. But was there a time in those 5 years where you just said, look, this business is never going to get beyond 50K ARR?
Multiple times. And I thought I'm going to give up multiple times on this. If I was looking back right now, I will do something much more focused, just looking into one business and full time. Try to not raise money, because right now I know that I'm not able to raise money under this. Right now maybe I am, but I don't want right now. But back then, when I was trying to make this to work, I was trying to figure it out what I need to do, and I didn't know what I need to do. I stuck on the 50K, and multiple times I thought I'm going to quit, because that gives me much less money, that I'm having as a full-time employee. And actually I start at some point even pouring money from my personal accounts into the business, because it came into a situation when I start borrowing money to the business from me personally. And it was many times that I said I'm going to quit, but I figured it out how I'm going to make this to work. I'm not a quitter, because I said, if I do this not to work, then I don't want to start another business after this. I did 10 different projects. I figured it out that, either I'm very bad as an entrepreneur, or there is something that I didn't figure it out yet. And it was something I didn't figure it out back then. And it just, that's the thing, is it takes you years to learn. And there's nobody, even if you watch a video on YouTube, that someone will tell you all the best tips, if you don't experience them yourself, you don't really believe what people say. Like I heard so many times the right things that people said on YouTube or any of these podcasts, and then I never implement them, because if you don't experiencing the problems, then you don't know.
It's very easy to hear advice. It's very difficult to internalize it and know, what you should actually go and do. So very turbulent times over those 5 years. Revenue also is very flat, 50K ARR. Tell me what changed. What happened at the end of those 5 years that started, the business started to grow? What did you do differently?
So it was mostly around, I never went into one of the departments deep enough, right? I was wearing a lot of hats. I was doing sales, marketing, I was doing, development, software development, customer support. I was doing everything. But that didn't give me enough time to go into one layer and go deep enough. For example, Google Ads. I was running Google Ads, but I built a campaign, I threw it there. It came with the worst cost per click, very bad, negative keywords that I never clean up. When you do that, your unit economics, they don't work out at all, right? Because in the very first days and the first year, if you don't train the algorithm, I didn't have this pixel, right, to give all these negative signals to Google. I didn't do any of this stuff. So I start burning money. I was giving a lot of money there, but I didn't get my unit economics. And without your unit economics, you cannot grow the business, right? You have to have, for every $1 you put in, you have to make 1.2 or 1.3 to start grow. And so I had to go deep enough, and I didn't do any email campaigns, and that was my worst thing, because I was owning all of this data. I was having this 175 million contacts database, and I didn't use it. I was selling it to other people. All right, people were buying this data, but I never used the data. So I started sending millions of emails over the last 2 years now, and it actually it materialized. I tried to drive the costs down, and how I did it, and I know that not everybody can do this, right? And I will tell you why. Because I owned the email infrastructure myself. I built up mailboxes. I didn't buy the mailboxes from elsewhere because I'm selling mailboxes right now. So I built the mailboxes and I'm getting them right now with a very, very, very low price per mailbox. The leads, the emails, verified emails, I'm getting them with a very, very low price. Every single layer, right, from how you're gonna send the emails, how you're gonna monitor the emails. I don't have a real person right now monitoring. I have automations everywhere. And how, obviously, how cheap it gets for me to get an email. The unit economics work, and when the unit economics work, something really magic happens. You start getting the money back, you reinvest them back, and you keep growing, and you keep growing.
Is most of your acquisition coming through cold email?
Most of the acquisition is cold email. It's the cheapest channel right now. And when I say cheapest, sometimes people misunderstand me, because cheapest doesn't mean you don't get a good leads. You actually get a very good leads. And hear me out. When you go to Google, if you give to Google or Facebook or whatever, you give them a small bit, they throw to you the worst leads. You have to give a very big bit to give you the good leads, the people that can spend more money with your better budget, right? In email, it's the other way around. You choose who you want to contact. So you do the ICP, ideal customer profile, filtering initially. So you see, I want to contact this company and I want to talk to this specific job title, and you send the email. So you pay too little to get the email, especially myself, and too little to send the email because I'm getting those cheap mailboxes. And I can do that in scale, so I can send millions of emails over the year, and I can do that in a very specific targeted. I start very targeted initially, and then I expand. I have like a strategy there where I prioritize my ICP, and then obviously I can expand to more to other territories. But the way it works is you can get exactly who you want to talk to, and at the same time you can do it at scale very cheaply. If you do advertisement, and I still do advertisement, but mostly around the high intent. So if someone searches for website identification, or someone searches my competitors, that's my strategy there, to steal from my competitors. I'm not doing it in a way that gives me cold leads, right? And then I try to convert them. I'm doing it more in a way that someone right now looking for the solution and can go either looking for my competitors, or they look for a software right now. Those are still good leads to be targeted through Google Ads. But then when you say, I want to talk to this specific company, the best tool is the email campaigns.
So these days with AI, it's become like too easy to send email campaigns at scale. And I think there's just so much noise out there that many people are just tuning out. So what is it different about what you're doing that's enabled you to get results? Is it just been a volume thing, as a numbers thing in terms of?
First of all, it's a numbers thing. Number two, you have to do everything right. So email campaigns is a huge, we can talk about hours about this, but just to give you an example, SPF, DKIM, all of this stuff needs to be settled, right? So you need to have mailboxes that deliver your message to inbox. That's the number one thing you have to do. Then you have,
as opposed to spam folders.
Yeah. So exactly. So you have to set up. You have to do some technical setup to make sure you don't send. And then there's a lot of principles, like you don't want to send pictures or links inside. So you initially send an email, you try to get the reply back, and then you send them the link only after they reply back to you, because you don't want to send millions of links. That will be a massive spam issue. So you have to do all of these things right. And your message should be very, very simplified, not like jargons. You don't have to. People right now, they are smart. They are going to understand. Even if you try to personalize and say something, I get these emails every day, and it looks like so stupid when people tell you, "Oh, George, congratulations in this, 1.5 million. We saw, the article." Obviously, I know that nobody typed this, right, manually. I know that they did it using AI. So for me, personally, as a founder, receiving all of these emails in my mailbox, because I'm reading all my mails, I don't treat, oh, this is a cold email, I'm not going to read it. I'm reading everything, right? And I do it because I want my mailbox to be clean and tidy, and I don't want to be any opportunity that someone, I don't want to lose an opportunity, right? I don't want someone to send me an email and tell me, come to my podcast, or, I have a huge audience, and I didn't look into the email just because I thought that it's a spam. So I'm opening the email anyway. And, what that means is that a lot of other founders and executives, they open the email regardless, right? And they read the email. So what the worst thing for you to do is to write a paragraph giving them compliments that you don't mean, right? So people like me, that I respect my time, I want to see something very, very short, straight to the point. Tell me how this can benefit me in a very, very tiny paragraph, and then I will send you a message back. This is what I do. If I say, okay, that is interesting, I will message back. If I see something huge, like complimenting me and all of this stuff, it doesn't make any sense.
Let's talk about how you've got the business set up today. So when you were at 50K ARR, you talked about a lot of people coming through the company, a lot of turnover. And then now you're at 1.5 million in ARR. You have 0 employees. So how are you running the business today?
So mostly on autopilot, AI. So I will explain how this works. So I have built a brain, which is the AI brain. It's everything built in-house. I don't use anything else. Obviously, I use Claude and OpenAI, the APIs. But when I say I don't use anything else, I mean, I haven't used the Intercom chat. I had this at some point and then I completely quit. I removed the subscription. It was costing me $500 per month. Completely removed them. I built my own chatbot. And why I did that? Because from Intercom, you don't need all their features. You just need the features that match your specific scenario, right? So I built using vibe coding, the chatbot. I connected to my system. Now I have a CRM built by myself, connecting to AI chatbot built by myself, session recordings that can see what people do, like similar to Hotjar, built by myself, all connected together, right? AI that analyzing those session recordings and what people do and analyze the behavior. If they stuck somewhere, if for example there is a bug and they cannot move forward, AI can realize this and can build, because I have all of these items connected together, can send emails to people, right? To unblock them. I have the library that I built where I have all these small video tutorials, help centers, everything in one place. So now imagine, let's just take a scenario. You're stuck somewhere and you ask the customer support, my account has 3,000 credits, why it has 3,000 credits, it should have 2,000 credits. What it does, it sends a signal through AI to look into the database and the code base and the code, and they can find problems, identify bugs, fix the bugs. I have a lot of filtering in the middle, so I can avoid something called a prompt injection, because a lot of people might go to the chat and try to delete the database or anything. So the AI just push back. So I have all of these procedures that the software can self-heal itself. I'm not developing new features on autopilot, but I automate the fixing of the software, the fixing part. I have a list of KPIs, right? I have like a huge, I'm going to share all of this stuff over the next months with people on YouTube, by the way. So I have like a huge KPIs for every single element of, like, I'm looking my metrics, my, MRR, my churn rate, everything from that perspective. Then I'm looking on how is my uptime, my website, is it up and running, every single element. And then I have a reactive system using AI that when something goes wrong and outside within the healthy range, automatically read this and fix self-healing the system. So it's like 100 people working for the business right now, or 24/7 self-healing things that can break.
So your customers are interacting through this chatbot when they have issues, and on the back end, you're basically running these agents that are able to diagnose, troubleshoot, and fix bugs, and even deploy.
Yeah, and doing much more than this. Everything is built in-house because I can have full control of this. I know that this is not an advice that anybody can do. It's not something that I'm telling people, okay, go and build your own software, because even vibe coding, it's a lot. But for me, it was an investment. It was an investment because I start for multiple years. I was keep changing software every time. It was something different. Like, imagine I had HubSpot at some point. Then I moved from HubSpot because it was very expensive for me. After a while, they had like a huge jump into the pricing. And then I started moving to Intercom, and from Intercom, then I did like a Pipedrive, and I was trying to figure it out how to connect all of this data together, and how can I, because you don't have the data together connected with an AI brain, and they are all over the place. This is why you need people to make sense of them, open to Windows, try to figure it out, what is here, what is there. So right now I have everything in one place, all the data in one place, all the AI in one place. I explain to the AI, I have giving it a personality. So I explain to the AI, you are George, right? You are replacing me, and you are, your way of thinking is this, and this. This is all the KPI metrics you need to take care of every day. And those are all the different tools. Like, you're giving them a palette of tools. You're giving them, you say you have access to chat, you have access to the app, you have access to the database, you have access to the code base, you have access to, session recordings, you have access to knowledge base, you have access to all of the systems. So now, if anybody asks for anything, figure it out, and either, from sending them a calendar invite, or I have auto follow-ups in a process where if people, I send the first message, right? Then I don't have to do the follow-up and follow-up, right? The follow-up process is very simple, because you just say, did you read my message? Do you have this kind of simple stuff, right? So all of this is automated.
You're in many ways in quite an extreme case of you've like basically vibe coded everything in-house, where I think some people try to go down that path and then realize that, you can build stuff quickly, and then the honeymoon period dies, and then you have a lot of time that you need to put into maintain and run and, operate these kind of things. What I think is more interesting with you is that you went from a place where you were hiring people and rehiring and so on, and the business wasn't growing. You got to a place now where you have 0 employees. It's just you and AI helping you run the business, and you've got to 7 figures in ARR. But then you told me, actually, I'm going to start hiring people now.
Yeah.
So tell me about why you're going back there.
So I did 2 realizations, right? And that's why when I say I don't want people to just copy me, right? I'm not the guy that you have to copy. What I'm saying here is to just, if you're in the similar situation with me and you don't have any money and you start something new, and you let's say you think that VC is not the right route for you for XYZ reasons, or you think that you don't want to spend so much time and energy following this path, and you want to follow a different path, the path I chose to follow later on, then this advice might be for you. If you don't will to spend a lot of your personal money, you want to do something yourself. So that advice only works if you are solo founder. You are not gonna raise any money. You don't want to spend a lot of money on external software. You want to build everything in the house, and you don't expect a lot of employees anytime soon, right? Because the way I built all of this in one place it helps me as a solo founder. It might not help me when someone else comes in and says, let's say I hire a marketer, and the marketer says, okay, let's see your Lemlist account or whatever, to send the emails, or send in blue. I don't know. I'm just throwing some names of newsletters. And I say, no, you have to go to Happierleads and do it from there. And then people say, okay, how we can send an email with this HTML template? I'm just telling you an example. I say, you will have to vibe code it. This is what will be my reaction. So you have, and the guys will say, but I don't know how to vibe code it, right? Because not everybody will know how to do it. Like vibe code the software, right? That will be hard job for everyone to do. So that might not work for anyone. That's why I'm saying you don't have to copy me. It was my situation where I found a path for me because I knew how to code as well. And I used my skill and I used the opportunity of AI to marry those two and get a way out. For different people, that might be something different. For my situation, back to this now, I'm looking to hire. And the reason why I'm looking to hire is because I know that the business is not going to be one person. If you are one person, you are an operator, you're not a business owner, you don't own the equity. And definitely, if you want to exit after 10 years, let's say, you will not be able to exit the business if you are an operator. If you are the business, if something happens to me tomorrow, I will not be able to operate, right? So I have to, although I have a lot of help from AI, I still need to bring people into the team, and those people have to be very smart, intelligent people that can use AI and prompt and all of these nice technologies to move the business to the next level.
All right. Well, I'd love to keep talking, but we should wrap up. So let's go on to the lightning round. I've got 5 quick fire questions for you. You ready?
Yep.
What's one of the best pieces of business advice you've received?
At some point, someone offered me 1 million to exit Happierleads, and I refused. And when I went to one of my, I don't want to call them mentors because I didn't have a big relationship with him, but I see him as a mentor because he gave me one good advice. He said to me, exit. Take the money, George. Take the money, go build something else, or
You didn't listen.
Yeah, I didn't listen. And my mentor back then told me you should take the money. I didn't took the money, and here we are today.
What book would you recommend to our audience and why?
Book. All of the books of Alex Hormozy, 100 Million Offer, all of them from him. I think they are very practical. I don't really like books that they just talk about theory. I like books that they can teach you something that you can apply.
What's the best money you've ever spent on your business?
Sales coaching. So I spend money to become a better salesperson. And that was huge for me because I was losing so much money. I was not able to sell. And when people were coming to the call and I was not able to identify the pain and pressure their pain and no, because this is a strategy. You don't have to become, you don't have to born salesperson. You just have to know the strategy, how this works. And when I learned that, I didn't only increase my, the revenue I was bringing to the table. I learned a lot about how to deal with my offers and sales also touching a little bit with marketing. So everything that I learned about sales, I applied them back to the website. So it was a great asset. I just learned a very, very nice skill that I can use for all my life, because even if I quit Happierleads today, I can go and still, if I'm a good salesperson and I know how to identify the pain of the client and know how to put a pressure on it and then give clarity to them, right? Because this is what you do as a salesperson. You just make them talk and make them sell to themselves, right? So when you know how to do that, this is a great skill for anyone.
What's your favorite personal productivity tool or habit?
To be organized in general. And when I say organized, from your calendar, getting your calendar, my calendar is my extension of my hand, right? So I want to see everything in there. If it's not there, it's not going to happen. And it helps me prioritize a lot about where I'm spending my time and how I spend my time. So I want to have a calendar. It doesn't really matter what time you wake up in the morning, what time you go for sleep. I'm not into this, rituals. I just think that if you start, let's say 9 o'clock and you finish, 10 o'clock or whatever, you have to have an organized day, and you need to know from the day before what you're going to do the next day.
And finally, what's one of your most important passions outside of your work?
I'm doing reenactments. I'm doing some Wild West stuff. And I'm doing some Vietnam War stuff, a lot of reenactment guy. And then I play music. I like videography and many hobbies. I like to always learn something new.
All right. Well, George, thank you so much for joining me. It's been a pleasure. If people want to check out Happierleads, they can go to happierleads.com. And if folks want to get in touch with you, what's the best way for them to do that?
They can talk to me on LinkedIn as well, although it's a little bit too noisy nowadays. But reach out on LinkedIn or go to the website and just text. If you're going to see the AI bot, just say agent, and then I will appear after.
To say agent to the bot.
Yeah.
Okay.
Initially it will be the AI bot talking to you, but then if you say agent, the real George will appear.
All right. That's good. Good insider tip. Great. Well, thanks, man. It's been a pleasure, and I wish you all the best.
Thank you so much. It was a pleasure as well.
Cheers.